Hi, Richard Andrew here, Head of Product Development at Hummingbird Fuels. I have an undergraduate degree in human physiology and a master's degree in food science. And I want to use both of those experiences to talk to you about how to fuel your endurance exercise, whether it be cycling, running, or swimming. And we're going to talk about fueling in relation to the duration of your activity. Before we get into that, we have to go to the beginning. So we'll talk a little bit about human physiology, and we'll also talk a little bit about food science and how those two things intersect, how they become integrated into your fueling strategy. So let's start number one, human physiology. Recent research, or most of the research, or current science, is showing that you can absorb about 60 grams of glucose, which is a carbohydrate, 60 grams of glucose per hour. On top of that, you can absorb about 60 grams of fructose per hour without having too much intestinal distress, or without causing intestinal distress. So let's double back on that. So current research shows that you can absorb about 60 grams of glucose per hour and 60 grams of fructose per hour. Those are both carbohydrates. So what does that mean in terms of like the food that you're eating? So let's talk about sugar. So sugar is a mixture of glucose and fructose in a 1-to-1 ratio. Maltodextrin, which is a common ingredient that you're going to see in a lot of your nutrition products, that's 100% glucose. And then interestingly enough, a lot of the things that are considered junk food or ultra-processed foods, the grocery store cookies and chips, anything that's made with like white flour, that all the carbohydrate there is 100% glucose. So when you think about like an Oreo cookie, take away the fat and the delicious cocoa, the carbohydrate in that cookie is glucose. So you could almost think of it as being equivalent to maltodextrin. Why that is important is as we get through the how to fuel for different durations of exercise and how we put those pieces of the puzzle together are going to be really important. So let's double back. There's going to be a little quiz. You're not going to be able to answer it, but sucrose is a mixture of glucose and fructose at a 1-to-1 ratio. A Chips Ahoy cookie, the carbohydrates, those are primarily glucose. Maltodextrin, primarily glucose. So keep note of that. That's going to be very important as we go through. So we understand, number one, a little bit about absorption. So going back again, about 60 grams maximum absorption of glucose, about 60 grams maximum absorption of fructose. Then we understand where those sugars are coming from in the foods that you're eating. And now, how do we put that together to understand what you should be doing as you fuel your bout of endurance exercise? If I mistakenly revert to cycling, forgive me, but most of our experiences are around cycling. But when I say cycling, I mean running, cycling, and swimming, or any other crazy hiking, speed hiking, any kind of quantum endurance sports that you do. Think of that as the catch-all if I say cycling. So, the current research talks a lot about how much you fuel in relation to the duration of your activity. I'm going to take that research and apply some of our real-world findings, just because we've been kind of doing some high-volume weeks, and we've had some insights. Hopefully insights that you can learn from us and avoid some of the mistakes that we've made. So current research, let's start with current research. So current research shows that for a 1-hour ride, which is maybe something you do in the morning before work with friends, you don't really need to fuel that. I think the opposite, in that if you have a 1-hour ride in the morning, you should fuel that with 60 grams of carbohydrates. And if you're using Hummingbird Fuels, then you're going to get, in a 60-gram serving, you're going to get 30 grams of glucose and 30 grams of fructose, which is a great ratio of carbohydrate for your activity. And why do I say fuel that 1-hour bout of exercise before work? It is because we have, as working professionals, we have lots of opportunities to miss eating. In our case with our ride today that we did our 1-hour ride, we hung out with friends, had a coffee, and then we all had to scoot to work. So we didn't have an opportunity to sit down and eat all the things that were optimized for our recovery. So if you're eating during your ride, then you're using that exercise bout to fuel and start your recovery process. So yes, there's lots of opportunities in a working professional's life to miss feeding. So why not take the time that you're riding to actually fuel, practice using different products, see what works for you, what you don't like, gives you an opportunity to mix and optimize and find the bottles you like to use, the amount of water you like to use, the taste that you like, the products that you like. It's a perfect time to do some experimenting that if you get it wrong, the stakes are low. Again, you finish your ride, you jump on some calls. It's not the end of the world because you've already started fueling and you've recovered, as opposed to doing that ride fasted, then going to work and maybe not even eating until you get to lunch, which is not really a great way to recover. Especially if you're doing high volume weeks, if you've got a lot of volume that you're doing, you're more than likely going to be behind on your carbohydrate intake anyways. So why not take that 1 hour as a perfect opportunity to fuel yourself? And we say, why not use Hummingbird Fuels? Because it's 60 grams of carbohydrates, it's delicious, it's easy to use, and gives you a great blend of carbohydrates and fructose. Let's move on to more serious bouts of exercise. So if you get up early and you're doing intervals, or if you're riding on the weekend and you're doing rides of 2 to 3 hours or even more, let's go with 2 to 3 hours, if you're doing rides of 2 to 3 hours. So that's something that you can probably sneak in during the work week or even kind of into the weekend. In that case, you definitely want to fuel with 60 grams of carbohydrates. Again, Hummingbird Fuels is ideally formulated to provide that 60 grams of carbohydrates. So the philosophy behind our product design, it's easy to use, it gives you a good ratio, you don't really have to think. If you're going for 2 hours, you take 2 servings. If you go for 3 hours, take 3 servings, on and on and on. You don't need to be a mathematician. We're trying to make life simple for you. So, in that 2 to 3 hour bout of exercise, consume 60 grams of carbohydrates. You're going to get, if you remember all the conversions, you're going to get 30 grams of glucose and 30 grams of fructose. Again, that's fine for fueling and conversion. That's a great ratio for the exercise that you're going to do. In our case, when you're doing exercise bouts longer than 3 hours, so you're a long run, swimming, gosh, I don't know how long you go when you're training to cross the English Channel or whatever crazy things you all do, or a long bike ride, the recommendation is to go to 90 grams of carbohydrates. So how do you do that and incorporate some of the learnings that we've already talked about? In this case, if you have a serving of Hummingbird Fuels, that's 60 grams of carbohydrates. So do you want to split that and have a serving an hour, 1.5 servings an hour? You could, but again, I think for us, we're really focusing on simplicity and less on kind of having these weird ratios. So kind of the way we think about it is when we're trying to get 90 grams of carbohydrates, we have our 1 serving of Hummingbird Fuels per hour, and then we just add another block of 30 grams of carbohydrates. In this case, it would be from glucose. Very simply, add enough food to get us to get another 30 grams of carbohydrates. And that's pretty simple. If I show you in reality, it's basically all you would need to do to get to 90 grams an hour is have 3 of these Biscoff cookies, or 3 Oreo cookies, or some chocolate chip cookies. I'm talking a lot about cookies because I like them. They're easy to pack, they're dry, they're light. But whatever kind of food you want to add, if it's a gel that you have that you enjoy using, you can just add that to your baseline of fueling. So again, that'll get you to 90 grams, and that's perfect for 3 to 5 hours of your endurance exercise. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that kind of breaks down a simple explanation of the amount of food you need to eat, how to get that food you need to eat, and why you need to do that. And hopefully we can do more of the series, get maybe a little more in depth, maybe not. I think the key is to keep it all simple and practical for the working professional. So there you go. Thanks for listening.